So what has God been doing in my life lately? My son and I, we have this game that we have a tendency to play when we're going to town or trying to waste time. And the game that he's been doing lately is this game that's kind of some form of would you rather. And the way it works is this: he asks this question. He's like, would you give up this to be able to have this? Like, for example, the other day he asked me, we were going to town, he's like, would you give up one of your favorite restaurants in town? He named one off, and he's like, in exchange for a Golden Corral. And I was like, oh, that's a tough question, because I love this place in town, but at the same time, man, do I love Golden Corral. And he and I both love Golden Corral. And he asked me one time, would you give up Walmart if you could have a Home Depot? Because I love Home Depot, that's just me. And it's a really great game because it generates conversation and, allows us to be able to talk to each other about the reasons why we like those things. And it's fun, right? And it's fun to dream sometimes, isn't it? I mean, in fact, it's totally healthy to look at the situations or the things around you and see more than what's there. In fact, our world, it has been built on dreams. Let me give you some simple examples of that. Toilet paper, for example, is an example of something that I'm very thankful for that somebody dreamed up somewhere. Or ice cream, or cars, or, somebody dreamt up how to harness energy, electricity back a while ago. And I'm so glad that we have electricity, aren't you? I mean, dreaming has made our lives better and easier, and I suppose more complicated in some ways. But I think dreaming is good. I think it's healthy. I think it's one of the ways in which God made us special. But I also think it's something that can take us in places that we don't always want to go. We as humans are really good at taking some things that are really good in our lives and allowing them to destroy us, aren't we? Dreaming is, I think, a very healthy thing for our lives, but when it turns to desire, it becomes something that we really have to monitor. It will take us places that we don't want to go. I mean, let me give you a personal example of that. I was out here working in the yard this week and just trying to accomplish a few things, and I had to move some things around. And so in the back corner of my shop, I happened to dig through, and I came across this post hole digger. And it's this really cool thing with like two shovels and two handles, and when you shove it down in the ground and go like this, you can dig a small hole straight down into the ground. And I remember finding it about 10 years ago and just thinking, this is the coolest thing. The mechanics of it, everything, to be able to dig a small hole without, and going deep potentially without digging a big one. I just thought it was the coolest thing, and it was on sale, or at least that's what I'm justifying it as, right? But here's the reality. I've used it twice in the last 10 years. It's sat in the corner of my shop. And you know what the very first thought is that I had that came into my mind when I came across it the other day? I actually would prefer to have the money than the post hole digger. Man, there's a lot of things in life that are like that, aren't there? I mean, I'm not just talking money here. I mean, there are some nights in my life that I wish I could have back, that I stressed out over something and didn't get my sleep the way that I should have, over things that really didn't matter. And I wish I could have those nights back. There are days that I have spent working on things that really didn't matter that I wish I could have back to spend in different places. I know that there are dreams that I have pursued in my life that I thought they were everything that I wanted, and I put energy and time and resources into them, and they turned bitter in my mouth, in my life. And I wish I could have them back. I've been thinking a lot about this passage that I read this week. Jesus is talking to his disciples. And he says this thing to them that talks about the big picture. He says, what good is it if you gain the entire world but lose your soul? Do you know what's weird is that when you look at life as one big package, sometimes we make some really poor trades that we consider to be really good deals, don't we? I mean, we have one life to live, And how often are we willing to trade years of life and energy and even health for money that we can't take with us, for things that, bring us little or temporary happiness, for even stress and problems that we groan about later? They're all kind of joy for a day that turn into dust, garbage, nothingness. But oftentimes we can't see that until the end of time, can we? There's this intimidating question I have for you today. Suppose you died today, and believe it or not, that's not the stressful part of what I want to ask, but suppose you died today, your life investment, would it be into your soul, into the person that God created you to be? Or if you were to really evaluate, would it be into things that probably, if you died today, they'd be divided up tomorrow? But wait a sec, let's talk even more in the day and moment. The things that you've been stressing out today, you've put your time and energy and life into today, were they worth it? I mean, would people look at you and say that you're loving and compassionate and selfless and somebody, who grabbed a hold of life, or somebody who was caught up in life, in work, in toys, whatever? It's kind of interesting how death kind of puts perspective on this all, doesn't it? My son's birthday was Monday. He turned 12, which is a pretty big deal. And so, because everything is kind of up in the air right now with this COVID virus, we asked everybody to send in videos telling us how he was special to them. And we wanted to do this because I thought he'd think it was cool to see all these people wishing him a happy birthday. But what we ended up doing is we spent 45 minutes crying and laughing as people talked about his heart for God, his care for others, his selflessness, his singing and his playing in the band. I mean, nobody mentioned his Xbox or his bicycles or all the things that sometimes he thinks are the most important things in the world. It's those other things that touched people's lives and he touched other people's lives with. Those are the things that make Elijah my boy. And those are the things that I hope will define the man that he becomes, not those other things. I really want those things to define the man that I'm becoming too. You know what Jesus said in the midst of that same passage to his disciples as he was talking about this? He gave them 3 instructions. He said, deny yourself, pick up your cross, and follow me. And if I'm going to kind of sum those up in Kevin's version, I think sometimes we need to get our heads out of our own butts. We need to look at what we have and what matters, and we need to ask God to show us how to use those in the right ways. I mean, that's Kevin's version of it, okay? But, as I've tried to live that out in my life, it's never steered me wrong. In fact, it has helped me sometimes when that beast of desire has shown up and tried to take me in places that I didn't want to go, and when dreams have tried to take me in the wrong direction. How about you today? I mean, the best thing about grace is that when we are neck deep in garbage, grace turns around and tells us there's a way out, that we can turn around. And I just want you to know today that it's never too late to start investing into the right things. There's not one of us who can't look into our lives and say, if I could do this day over. If I could do this day over. My name is Kevin, and I hope that this has given you some food for thought today. Because I know for me, I want to go deeper. And I want to invite you to join me on that journey. I just want to wish you a great week, and we'll see you next week.